Okay.
In terms of that idea of being overwhelmed, is that why you were asking us to sit as big mind instead of big heart, or something that has more emotional texture?
Yeah. Just to give you a sort of a traditional overview of the practice of Tonglen, there's 4 stages to the practice. The first stage is traditionally referred to as connecting with absolute bodhicitta. What does that translate into in our language? Big mind. It's referred to as flashing big mind, or instantly connecting with selflessness, to put it in classical Buddhist language, or space. The fact that awareness and space are inseparable, and that all of these perspectives that we contract around are not permanent identities. You're cluing into the momentum of your history of realization of that. Each of you in a moment, right, can connect with that. So you open to that at whatever level of realization you have. That's stage 1. Stage 2 is establishing texture. The idea there, and the emphasis that I gave you today, and which I really firmly believe in, is connecting it to the body. The classical instructions on Tonglen often don't include any mention of the somatic field of experiencing. In my own work and in working with other Western students, I found this to be really an important link. If you can get a felt sense, a personal, embodied felt sense of the non-conceptual experience of this energy of compassion, that is half the battle, if not more. I always visualize the unique kind of smoke that emanates from those vats of tar that you see sometimes on the side of the road, when they're fixing the road, and very hot, and if you go over to it, it smells really badly. And if you can imagine being locked in a room with it, I imagine breathing all of that in through all the pores of my body, in particular through the heart center. When you breathe out white, light, and cool. The interesting moment here is, right, you breathe in, and then you're asked to instantaneously flip the perspective and breathe out, and you have no attachment to what you've breathed than breathing in. Right? And this is partly an answer to your question, which is most people, when they start Tonglen, they have a preference for the suffering. Right? They have a preference, or they get hooked into putting 80% of their attention on the black, hot, and heavy, and only 20% on the white, light, and cool. That's not the instruction. It's equal time, right? Now what's going on is that you're breaking down your preference to keeping the bad stuff out of your field of awareness. That's what's really going on with Tonglen. So you're starting that. If you were to ask 9 out of 10 people you come across, they would not want to take in anything bad. Everybody, for the most part, is trying to keep the bad stuff over there and the good stuff in here. This practice goes against the grain. It goes against the grain of what? It goes against the grain of perspectival fixation. It goes against the grain of ego or self from a classical Buddhist perspective. So that's the second stage. You're establishing that texture. Third stage that I gave you today is you're working with a specific issue in your own life. This converts the classical Tonglen practice into a Maitri practice, or self-compassion. And I've found this to be very helpful in working with people. If you start with yourself truly, then you start to connect with, for instance, the actual experience of what it is to be angry for 15 years. And to make that kind of deep relationship to it. You start there. But then the next stage is you see that same trait in another, and you start to relate to that. Start with just one. Then your perspective keeps expanding. And if you really, if you want to do it more extensively, you can include 10 people. You can include all the people in this room. You could include all the people in the hotel. You could include all the people in Westminster, in Denver, in Colorado, in this part of the United States, in the whole United States, all Western people. Then you could go like that, or you could just go right out. Up to you. But the idea is you keep expanding the sphere or the field of your cultivation of compassion. Okay? That's just a kind of overview of the practice. I think it's in the ITP kit, isn't it? Tonglen session? Compassionate exchange. Okay, so it's in there, and then, again, any of the books by Pema Chodron are very straightforward in giving Tonglen instruction. And then this book by Ken MacLeod is also, you might find helpful. And also the book that Ken just wrote the foreword for, Mind Training by Tralag Rinpoche, as a section on this practice.